Zlurpcast!
Look at this. I can point. It's not really in the center, though. I'm pointing my camera. I don't know where you are. I'm bottom row still, which that's a different discussion for a different day. This one on Zlurpcast TV, we're talking Rivet Wars. We've got Biran. We've got Valdric next to me and Xtreme on the top row. We are the players. The not ready for primetime players, if you will. There's been discussion before we hit record about Rivet Wars, and Mike Valdric asking Xtreme a question, and I'm like, dudes, save it for the show. So before we delve into everything, before we get into all the stuff that is Rivet Wars, who here has played this game? Okay. Biran is going to go in blind, so you're going to get the last vote when we get to the end.
I'm going to go in dry.
Right. Yeah, you're going in. Your vote will matter less. That's just how it goes on this show. Xtreme is the most fervent supporter of this game and even resurrected it as a way to bond with his son. We'll see if that worked out or not. I don't know. It probably didn't. It probably pushed him further apart when it's all said and done. We're going to find out on that. I did enjoy the game a lot. I played a handful of games. I wasn't in early on, and we're going to get to, let's talk about our history with it before we get into the rules and whatnot. But I got into this game after Xtreme, once again in the Centipede, said, check this out. I didn't Kickstarter it. I bought the box set, and then after one game said, well, I need more. I mean, I know this is a board game, and it should be just what's in the box is all you need, but is that all you really need? No, you always want more shit. Xtreme, first purchase after the box set for me was the 3D terrain. Wise purchase or no?
Yeah, it looks awesome. I mean, it's all cosmetic. You don't really need it, but it's a good purchase.
Yeah, thank you. Without going in depth on what I needed, I'm like, well, I need this. The bunkers need to look like bunkers, and the barbed wire needs to be barbed wire. I don't want flat. So at that point, I decided, well, I'm going to have to get more models anyway. Bought a few extra expansions, and then a few of the limited characters. I had to get those off eBay. Xtreme, let's go over to you. Tell me about your history with this game and when you got in up until now and kind of the ebbs and or flows of this relationship.
All right. I was a Kickstarter backer and backed it for almost one of everything. They had the Blitzkrieg, whatever level that was at. And then Cool Mini or Not was doing stuff at Gen Con, I think for 2 years. And I attempted to play in events and ran some stuff at my house a few different times and played here and there. But for the most part, it has collected dust in my footlocker, and other things got piled on top of the footlocker, and then it just kind of got pushed to the back. But when I was moving,
what time frame are we talking here? When did you first start?
And also, is this all literal or figurative, like pushed to the back? Do you mean you like literally is all pushed to the back, or do you mean other things took precedence, or both?
Literally, it was underneath a table, pushed to the back corner underneath the table, and there was a bunch of papers on top of it.
Like where a store would keep like common Magic cards or something.
Right. Yes. Time frame wise, I should have wrote this down. I think the Kickstarter was 2013, I believe.
Sounds about right.
So from 2013 till about 2015, I was trying to play it as much as possible. Not a huge player base, so I was introducing other people so I could get people to play. And then somewhat after that, it got less and less frequent until it got pushed to the back. And then when I was moving, I was downsizing all my gaming stuff. I got to the footlocker and I was like, I love the game, I think. Can I love a game I haven't played in a few years? I don't know. But I don't want to sell it because I'm going to sell it at a huge loss and basically give the stuff away, and I still love it. So I decided that I was going to make it like my big passion game for the next little while.
And this is a big deal too, because in going through your stuff before you moved, you were unloading, as far as gaming goes, 95% of everything, or is that too high?
That's accurate, but it's not all gone yet. I didn't get it all sold before I moved, so I actually had to move stuff that I still intend to sell.
But
so I have
you have the intention of still ridding yourself of 95% of your gaming items, right?
Yep. And it wasn't just based on like the size of the game or stuff too. It was time investment, where I knew I could play Rivet Wars, and it was just kind of my own little thing on the side, where some of the other games would require me going to stores on a regular basis, finding people to play, and being miserable, and all that good stuff.
Would you ever see yourself at a local con, being at a sad corner, trying to demo it to passersby, like a Virgil situation?
Yeah.
I think there was a period in time where I could see myself doing that. I don't know. Maybe. I don't want to close the door on that. But
like people trying to avoid eye contact and go, oh.
Xtreme, I want you to, I don't want you to like tell a whole sad story, but I do want you to tell about your instance of this game at Gen Con and what happened. And then follow-up question after you say it is, if that went better, would your answer be different, and would you be willing to want to run stuff?
Yeah, so before I get into the story, I want to preface it and say it's all the bad guys, cool mini or not. Ted Terranova and his company, Super Robot Punch, had nothing to do with any of my negative stuff. So there was supposed to be an event at Gen Con, I don't know, 2014, 2015, somewhere around there. And it was my son's first year of actually going to Gen Con and playing games. So he was super psyched. And the one event that he was really looking forward to was the Rivet Wars event. So we were both going to play.
You never went to Gen Con before?
I think he went, but I think this is the first time he was like playing in events.
Okay. I'm surprised you never dragged him to Blood Bowl before.
Yeah. I don't even think this year he was even playing.
Yeah, dragged. I mean dragged, because that's what happens at Gen Con. Blood Bowl. Like, come on. There's so many other fun things to do. No. Come on. Find the fucking green tablecloths and everyone's ass to ass. That's where we play Blood Bowl.
As the guy who runs the Gen Con Blood Bowl tournament, yeah. Why the hell are you playing Blood Bowl?
You do that every weekend. Why are you going to spend hundreds of dollars?
People, this is like the one time a year they get to play it, so I'm happy for that. But
yeah,
anyway, part of it is always like, don't feel you have to play the Blood Bowl if you're my friend. Go play other games.
I think people think they were like hurting your feelings. You're like, no, I don't even want to keep track of all this shit.
That's one less spreadsheet if you don't play.
Right.
No. But if you do enjoy it, by all means, come play it. But
yeah. So you signed up to a Rivet Wars organized play. Was it a tournament or was it just a series of games?
Well, we didn't really know. It was listed as a tournament, but it's hard to imagine how they pull this off. The game is still very new. I think at that time, the only thing that was officially out was the starter box. But because I think all the second wave of Kickstarter, I don't think it had shipped yet.
Okay. Because I got into it after you told me the story, so it must have been way early on in the lifespan of the game.
Yeah, I mean there may have been some expansions at your Gen Con, but I'm pretty sure the second wave hadn't shipped yet at this time. So it was a cool mini or not run event. So I was like, what the hell? Like, let's go and play it. When else are we going to get to play this game with other people that I don't drag to my house and tell them to play this game with me? So there ended up being 7 of us sitting around at this table, kind of waiting for the person to come and run the game, and waiting, and they never showed up. Mm. So, my son's disappointed. It's a big bummer. I actually went through, I don't know if you've ever had to get a refund on an event ticket at Gen Con. It is a giant pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But the only reason I did it, because it's not worth it at all, but the only reason I did it is because I wanted to make sure, because I'd run events at Gen Con, I knew they kept track. I wanted to make sure that those negative ticket things went onto their events. I was pissed.
Yeah, so, it's not so much, I need $10. It's, I want to send a message.
Right. I mean, you don't even give it $10. They give you a credit for next year at Gen Con. Like, what the hell ever? Like, the money didn't even matter. But it's a whole process. You have to go up to the hall organizer, get them to sign off that no one showed up. Then you have to take your ticket from there over to the booth where you buy a ticket. This whole freaking pain in the ass. But I went through that process. So I thought, you know what? Crap happens. It's a big convention. The next day I went over to the Cool Mini or Not booth. I'm like, hey, you know, what happened? And of course they have all volunteers working. The first guy was like, I don't know, let me get someone that can help you. And he went and got somebody else, and he came over and was like, I don't know, I'll figure it out. And he rolled his eyes at me and then walked away. And like 20 seconds later, I see him doing Chaos Bowl demos. Like, I watched you just like blow me off and walk away and just do something else.
Wow.
So I ended up posting on the Cool Mini or Not forums.
Yeah, this is where you said, all right, mofos, now you're going to feel the wrath of online Xtreme. If you thought in person was bad, wait till you see the online Xtreme. Here we go.
Channeled your inner Karen.
Yeah. So I posted on the forums, and there was this whole story like, what the fuck? This is like, not only am I disappointed, but then I also got treated like crap the next day. Like,
is this Cool Mini or Not forums or Rivet Wars specific forums?
It is the Cool Mini or Not forums, which would have been in the official Rivet War forums.
Okay, there. Okay.
So someone responded from Cool Mini or Not, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry that happened to you. Blah blah blah. Email this person, and we'll do what we can to make it right and get you some kind of package sent to you." I was like, "All right, well, that's a good start." So I sent off the email, and never heard anything back. And this, I think, of the 7 people there, I think 5 of them ended up chiming in on this thread that, yeah, this did happen. We were all sitting there. There was no event.
Yeah.
They claim that the guy went to the wrong table. I don't think that happened at all.
Well,
like, that is nearly impossible.
How long does it take to figure that out?
Devil's advocate. Right. I'm running the events. I go to the alleged wrong table. Okay. Anyone here for Rivet Wars? No? Okay, I'll give it a few. No? Huh. I guess all those people that signed up all decided to ditch. I'm going to go home, or I'm going to go to my hotel. I'm going to walk around.
I'm going to go get chicken fingers.
Yeah. At a certain point, if you're running an event and you don't see any of your participants there, you have to like do some detective work. You can't just walk away. Even if that's true, you can't walk away.
I mean, anything in life, if you get to the point like, wow, no one else is here, you're probably the one that's in the wrong.
Yeah.
Like some of the trail races and stuff that I do, they always have like a little spiel at the beginning, and they're like, if you look around and there's no one else around you, you're probably lost. Like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Sure.
So I waited like a month or so after the initial email that got no response, and sent a follow-up email. I'm like, hey, are you guys going to do something with this? And I got a response back, yeah, we're working on it. And then a follow-up email like a month after that, like, hey, still haven't seen anything. And at that time, I think they had just released the Treasure Hunter model, not Indiana Jones. So I was like, hey, that would be a good, throw a couple of those in, one for me, one for my son. We're square. And never heard anything back. So I still have the emails. I went back and read them recently, and I'd actually forgotten how disappointed Alex was in the whole thing, which made me mad all over again. But it's not Ted's fault. It's not the game's fault. It's the game publisher's fault.
I mean, Ted created the game, and then he sold it in a sorts to have Cool Mini or Not publish it, right?
Well, no, not really. He always retained all the rights to everything, so they were on as publishers only. They did.
Well, he owns the IP. They just published it.
Do what?
He owns the IP. They just published it.
Yeah, he owns that, like the full IP. Like he did all the sculpts. He did all the initial artwork and the design and the initial rules. They came in and helped with some of the play testing and final rule tweaking, and they did some additional artwork that wasn't Ted's. But other than that, they were the publishers.
Well, I say that because if he just essentially sold it off, then I'd say it's 100% Cool Mini or Not's fault. But he is actually partly to blame for this, in my opinion, because it's still his game. If you want to control your game still, much like Steve with us with Super Show, he's still involved in everything, even if someone else helps him make cards. If it's still your game, that also means you oversee the organized events.
You need to take ownership.
Don't you think it's partly on him? And now, unless he said, I'm only doing rules. Cool Mini or Not is in charge of everything else, but it sounds like he wanted to retain ownership of the game the IP, and just the overarching, like, it's my game, it's my thing, which means your event, your thing.
So there's a lot more on this subject that I want to get to later on other things, but on this particular one, like, I don't blame him for the event being a failure. But maybe afterwards, when he saw the stuff on the forums, maybe he could have stepped up to make it right instead of depending on Cool Mini or not. But I don't even know if he was at Gen Con. I'm pretty sure he was, but he wasn't involved with that. I don't blame him for the event, but maybe the follow-up to the event making it right, he could have, sent out a piece of artwork or something.
Who ran the Kickstarter, him or Cool Mini or not?
Cool Mini or not.
Do you think he thought it was kind of a one and done thing?
No, I actually have a prop to prove that this was not a one and done thing. They had these promo cards that they were giving out the first time it was released that are already showing the Western Front and the 2 additional armies that never came out. Sort of. The Ruskas sort of came out. We can get to that in a little bit.
Okay.
But I think from everything you look at, it's pretty clear that Cool Mini or not had this designed as 2 giant Kickstarters. The one that they did, and then one that was going to be very similar to that one, but 2 different armies.
Like a new starter with the 2 new armies in it?
They should have. So the latest update on Rivet Wars, I guess we can kind of jump around here, but because I showed
you're kind of leading this one because you have the most experience, so I figured feel free to, expand.
December of 2018, finally, because Ted had gone silent for a couple of years at this point, I think. So out of the blue, in December 2018, there's a big update of what's going on with Rivet Wars. And basically, Cool Mini or not has no intention of publishing Rivet Wars anymore. But Ted and Super Robot Punches LLC still retain all the rights that they always had to the game. So if they can find another publisher, they can publish new stuff, the old stuff. He can publish whatever he wants with it if he finds a new publisher. So that info was put out, and then at the same time, he said, I'm going to go ahead and release the Ruska models on Shapeways. So you can go there and you can buy them, but because it's on Shapeways,
oh man, that sounds expensive.
Real quick.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was only the Ruska models that would be basically the starting force that you would get in the starter pack.
Just so I understand, because maybe I'm not the most familiar with 3D printing. Is this a way for him to make money? Because couldn't he just sell the STL files for people with a 3D printer already?
Yeah, he could do that. With Shapeways, he does get a commission off of each one. So it's a way to control, because they're the only ones that have the STL files this way, so there's no one just making tons of them.
And I've used Shapeways before, and it gets expensive fast when you get stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I will tell you, I've actually used it a couple times, and I wasn't impressed at all. But technology keeps improving. I had weapons for different games, and I'm like, oh, these look really bad. But I would imagine a lot of it has to do with what exactly you're printing. These being chunky models, I think they'd be pretty good.
Well, and you could select the quality of the material too, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bigger, chunkier model, so they end up looking pretty good. These aren't Shapeways, but just an example of the model from the game. And they do have different, but it gets even more expensive. You can get the better quality, super detailed ones that are going to look a lot nicer, but that's bumping every model up a few more dollars. Just to get a basic starting force that you get in the starter pack, I think you're looking at $200 for the Ruskas. So not a whole lot of people have done it. And, at this point, the game had gone so silent with no releases that there really wasn't a huge audience for it anyway when he did this. So I don't know if he got discouraged from the lack of sales. The other thing that affects that, at the same time, he put up the cards for all the Ruska models. So that way you had the rules, you had models, you could play with them in your games of Rivet Wars. Great idea, everything sounds great. He forgot one of the cards. One of the cards he forgot to put up was one of the characters, Tesla, who we have no idea what he does at this point, but we can assume that the Tesla bots that suck right now somehow work with Tesla and are useful. But it's been since December of 2018 of people being like, hey, where's Tesla's card? And he just has gone completely silent again.
He says, what does it pay at this point, right? I mean, if you think about it,
Is he like touched? Is he maybe a little weirdo? Something?
No, I think he's just really busy. Right now, I think he's like the lead art guy on a couple of video games. And then, outside of that, he also has a family and stuff. And I don't think this is.
So this went from a side hobby project of him to design something, start to finish. And then it's gotten to the point where it's more trouble than it's worth. So it's kind of been that weird stage of, is there going to be a small group of players that try to keep it alive? And, hey, here's our annual rules review. And meanwhile, who gives a shit, because it's the same 10 people talking to the same 10 people, right?
Yeah, I really think this game could have like a cult following, like a small cult following, if Ted had frequent post, or somebody had like the frequent post of an official nature of some kind.
He kind of
like,
threw people a bone every now and then. People might pick up the ball, run with it, but if there's nothing for a year and a half, almost 2 years, then it's like, why bother? Everybody probably thinks that, right?
Well, it's not just the one card. Like you said, the cards interface with a whole line of infantry or whatever bots is useless until you know that. It's like you're missing a key piece.
It's a very key piece, because like the set of Ruska models now, they have like these two very unique gameplay methods, and one of them is around Tesla. And we don't even know how it works, because we have to like make assumptions or make up our own rules for this model to make it work in some way. So it's like half of the uniqueness of his army is wasted.
I would say that I know it's missing an integral card and everything, but that's not really that big of a deal in my opinion, because the game is still either dead or life support. You choose if you think the plug was pulled already. Having an extra card for some models you can get on Shapeways, to me, I don't really give a shit, because I may not even like that army. That's not going to revive the game at all, in my opinion. Am I wrong there?
No, it's definitely not. All it's going to do is appease the small group of loyal people there still are, and it's a very small group.
It sounds like it's just another layer of shit on the shit pile.
Right. It's not going to bring anyone into the game. It's not going to make the game more popular, but those small people that have already invested a ton of money would go out and buy that stuff and be happier. They may go out and buy it. I'm going to buy the Ruska models because I made up my own rules for Tesla.
So the people that are all in, that say this is a game you get into, if you will, and they bought everything. What's someone talking? Is that like Games Workshop level of all in? Is that 300-400? What is someone talking about where there's so money invested where they can't let it go?
It's comparable to some of the other Cool Mini or Not games. Like if you went all in on Zombie side, you have a lot of money invested into that.
So many spin-offs and expansions of that game though. I bet you Zombie side's even more expensive.
Well, there's a lot more than that one.
Yeah,
for sure.
This one, there was
that level of this, like it's an expensive board game, and then expansion. So all in, I'd probably like if you paid retail $400 or $500. So it's not huge, but when you're at the board game level, it's pretty huge.
No question, you're totally right on that. When you're looking at the board game audience, who thinks the price of a Games Workshop game, to put all these models, I cannot pay $99 for any game. To put, you get all this stuff. There's a group of people that just refuse. It's got to be $30 or less, and then there it's still good on Amazon even when your store has it. When you're talking now, that also begs the question of, this is a board game that has miniatures. This is definitely not a miniatures game, or do you disagree?
I think it's definitely a board game with very cool miniatures. I think there's of all the people that are playing it, very few people painted their models. So I think if painting is that low on the scale, it's not really ever going to be a miniatures game. So
is War Machine not a miniatures game then?
That's not good.
Point, Biran. He's up 1-0 on you. With Rivet Wars, what I noticed is the models are great. They are would you still call them chibi, or no?
No, I wouldn't.
Because they're not, right?
Proportions aren't right. Proportions have to be like, chibi is what I am. Giant, oversized head on normal.
Chibis are like Funko Pops, but small.
Yeah.
Right, essentially. Big head.
This might be like an offshoot of it, but it's not technically chibi. And then
they look like
the
minions.
models. Yeah, the riflemen from the Allies, especially, but all of them the models look like rivets, which I think you brought up recently in our chat. You didn't realize that. But yeah, especially the
You knew
Allies.
that the whole time. You knew the whole time that these things were physically look like rivets, because my mind was blown, and like you, same reaction, right?
I was like, yeah.
I'm like, oh, like I just thought it was because there's rivets on everything, and that's how we build stuff in this universe. I had no idea it was intended to be like, here's a model, here's a rivet, duh. Like, mind blown.
Some of Ted's like old original artwork, they look even more like rivets. They slowly kind of adapted into what they are. And the Blight Empire models, they don't look as much like rivets because they don't have the helmet that the Allies do.
So the base game, you've got the Allies, and this is loosely World War I, but there's also, probably some fictional elements of, things that were created too. There's walking tanks, dreadnought-ish kind of things, but loosely based on that turn of the century time period, right?
Yeah, it's some World War I, World War II, steampunk. Like
I've heard diesel punk.
That would probably be more appropriate than steampunk. There's not a lot of cogs and gears and stuff.
Yeah, it's not as fantastical, but
yeah.
So you've got this game, and you've got 2 armies in the box, and then all the expansions like we talked about earlier. There are 2 factions. You have the Allies and the Blight Empire, right, Xtreme?
Yep.
Sort of UK and America, and sort of Nazi Germany, sorta, but not really. One thing that's kind of cool in a weird way, there was like comic books that came with it, but also that style. Whereas if you think back to whether it's history you may have read up on this time, or movies or whatever, they somehow made it fun. And it's like everyone's got smiles on their face. We're cartoony characters. Let's not worry about what's actually happening in the trenches. We're going to keep it fun. And that was, in a weird way, that's almost kind of a cool, like, fucked up brain that a lot of gamers and nerds have, where the whole idea of like tragedy plus time is comedy, that like it's fine. Look at him, he's so cute. It's like, yeah, but that's sort of like supposed to be their Hitler, I think. It's like, maybe. But
what are we fighting over here? Oh, it's a concentration camp. Oh,
right. Yeah, but it's cool because they made it look really cool. And I think the purple guy is either Destro or Hitler. I can't tell. Maybe you can clarify that one.
The technology, the aesthetic, aside from the actual artistic rivet representation, reminds me a lot of Dust and Dust Tactics.
Yeah, the tanks and stuff. Yeah, so I don't know. We had a lot of negative stuff in there at the beginning, but I'm definitely not negative on this game, obviously. But covering gameplay and what makes this game special in general.
Yeah, I think I know Mike had a question for you, and I mean, I'll probably handle most of mine in pros and cons. If you want to give an overview, Xtreme, of the basic gameplay, not a how-to video, because I believe Biran found one. I think he had his pants down when he was watching it. He's like, I think that's donkey lips. I'm like, it is fucking donkey lips. Holy shit.
4 rings. He had 4 rings. Almost half his fingers had rings on them.
Yeah, well, he didn't know. He thought it was 1 ring to rule them all. He went with all 10. And onion rings, too, under the table. That was there. Xtreme, give me an overview of the gameplay of this. You've got the phases with the, how everything works in it.
Sure. Some very basic overview. There's squares on the board, and each square is broken up into a grid of 4 squares inside of it. So you could have 4 infantry models in there, or some of your cavalry will take up 2, or the big tanks take up 4. But then one of the clever things with it is the order in which you attack. You shoot at the grid, and it goes, these grids are numbered. There's like a little cheat sheet on your card, and that's the order that you have to hit those models in. So you can kind of protect certain models by placing your stuff strategically in the grid. So like your infantry can be hiding behind when you're rocket bikes, or vice versa.
Yeah, like when we sign into the Zoom, it gives us these 4 spots here, and we know there's better spots to be. In this game, you could actually sort of create a bit of a strategy with who you're going to attack based on that arrangement, correct?
So for those watching, the grid would be, you would hit Xtreme first, then me, then JP, then Mike. So Mike's the most protected, and Xtreme's the most vulnerable.
Yeah. But you'd always, depending on who's shooting you too, you don't always want to have like your infantry in the back or infantry in the front.
Can I ask a quick question then? Say you have, because I noticed on the cards you get this many die, you get this attack on 1 armor, 2 armor, 3 armor, 4 armor. So if you have a guy that's in your first grid that you can't hurt, does it protect everyone else who you could hurt because you have to hit him first?
You're saying he dies first no matter what?
There's different kinds of attacks. There's like the normal attack would just be shooting that first grid spot so you couldn't hurt it.
Okay.
But then there's also like full grid attacks would be like explosions.
Like blast effects, stuff like that.
Yeah. So that in that case, everyone would roll individually. So you could still hurt the other stuff. But the different armor, that you mentioned there, and then what Mike had asked about earlier. So you have armor 1, which is all your infantries. Then armor 2 is most of the cavalry and type stuff. Then armor 3, like some of the bigger armored robots and things. And then armor 4 are your tanks, your big tanks. And then they had 5 built in, but they never released any models that were armor 5. But some weapons are better against armor, and some weapons are better against infantry. So Mike mentioned 3 dice against infantry. That would be the allied riflemen get 3 dice against infantry. But then on the other side of the coin, the Blight's main troop actually, I think, has 1 dice against infantry, but they're better against armor.
Because they got the Panzerfaust, right?
Yeah, the Panzerfaust, the basic Blight trooper, is, they're holding essentially RPGs.
They can target more than just infantry.
Yeah, so they made them very, almost exact opposites on purpose by design, right?
Yep, so it's exact opposites initially. Then when the expansions come in, things change. But so they're exact opposites, and you get a lot of rock, paper, scissors on how you want to do things. But then the other really cool part of the game is you're constantly deploying troops from your entire collection. So every round you're deploying stuff, so you're responding to what the other person deploys. So you're never in a situation like some miniature games and war games, you get into a spot where you're like, well, this is just a really bad matchup for me. Like, my weakness is your strength. This is going to be really tough. You're never in that spot, because like if they bring out something that you don't have an answer to yet, you just bring the answer out to it next round, so that way you can kind of.
And you generate gold and rivets per turn, right? So you're refreshing your pool.
Yeah, like a full set. The bigger games are usually like 6 deployment points, 1 rivet per turn, and you can save your rivets up. Because some of the tanks you need to have like 3 rivets to bring a tank out.
It reminds me of like a real-time strategy game, where you're after your time is the resources, and then you use those resources to convert to units. That's kind of a neat mechanic, I think, for a board game.
Yeah, Ted had done some kind of real-time strategy video game before he did the rules for this, so there's definitely a lot of influence there, which I really like.
The idea of there's things in this game that are very unlike most other tabletop games. You hit on one of them, Xtreme, where you are every turn you're deploying new stuff. Most games, you got what you got. If you got a bad matchup, you got a bad matchup. You can try to work around it. This could be, you know what? I really need more tanks in. I need more armor. No, I need more dudes in this one because I got this mission that needs more dudes. So you're every turn, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're like buying, deploying, and then you're attacking, then you're moving, which is also different.
Yeah.
Almost every game, you move, then fight. This one, you fight, then move, because that move is sort of like, I don't know, it seems almost like, I don't want to say different just for the sake of it, but your deploying is, in a weird way, kind of like your move, because that's happening first, deploying new stuff. It's almost like then, after you've done your thing, move. Is that to keep things, I don't know, so it feels a little more, I know it's not, I know it's a whole turn, but it might feel like, oh shit, I had all these plans to hit you over here, but then you moved just a second ago. Now it's my turn. I got to rethink what I'm doing, because usually you don't move at the end.
Yeah, I think combat before movement is definitely something where it's so that way you can see your strategy out beforehand, so you can like move into position, or if you're moving into range of their weapons and things. There are some exceptions to that. People that have rapid assault are allowed to move during the combat phase, but that's not every model. I think
the mono wheels are one of my favorites. Those things, they can hit first before everything else, right?
They suck, yeah. they're rough to deal with. They tear up
Did
infantry.
they ruin Tanksgiving for you? Just a little foreshadowing for later.
No, not that necessarily. Just with my son being better at all games.
Well, did you set up the armies? Because you could have fucked him over on that side of things, right? I don't have those, son. I don't have those models. You have everything, Dad. I don't. Times are tough. eBay has them now. Here's all I got. I've got 120 Panzerfaust. That's all I got. That's all you're getting. Let's play.
I'll have to think about that next time.
Okay. Next time.
One of the other cool gameplay things that I think is really important is like you have strategic objectives that are your victory points, one of your victory points that you're trying to get, your main one. Only infantry can ever enter those. So that kind of forces you to have infantry in the game. Otherwise, there would be people that would just bring out tanks and cavalry and stuff. But this kind of forces more of a overall balance. You have infantry out there, you have something supporting your infantry, you have something killing the other guy's infantry.
A lot of games, I think, are going that way too. The idea of, like, we briefly talked about drop zone commanders. And I was like, why would you ever take infantry? Well, they're the only ones that can claim. And even in even 40K at times, I don't remember what edition. I don't think it's the current one, but there was times like only troops can claim this. And maybe it's the current one now, but like
what they did is they made the objective secured rule, meaning if you have that rule on a unit, typically infantry, even if you're outnumbered, you still claim it over someone that doesn't.
Yeah, I think for a time it was almost like no, you have to have troops. That the point was, I think a lot of games, you're almost thinking about how can someone break this later on and not build armies the way they should be. In my head, here we go. You got to take this if you want to win, and now everyone has to play ball if you've got that rule in there.
But and without that rule too, you could have somebody that just takes a tank and just parks it on top of that, so no one else can get in that square. But now with the rule, they're not allowed to enter that square at all. So it kind of fixes that.
Like, you mean, is it bunkers? Is that the only place to claim objectives?
Well, there's strategic objectives look a lot like bunkers, but they're the ones that you can actually score.
They got the
bunkers. Yeah. The 3D one had a little hole to put your flag in.
That's right. The flag in there, yeah.
But could you put your guys in with that, or did the flag? Because I don't like what 3D terrain means. I can't put my guys on it.
No, the guys fit around it, and then you put your flag. The flag's like.
I think it was made where only guys can be in there, as in it was only one square, and then there's like it's higher up. You have right, so you can't even put a cavalry model in there.
Yep. The other big thing with the game is the secret mission cards. So there's a deck of secret missions. You get up to 2 in your hand. And it's some random thing that they want you to do in the game. And if you do that, you get those victory points from that as well.
Similar to a lot of objective cards in other games, like even Blitz Bowl has that, where it's like, oh, scumbag card.
Every turn you're drawing cards to do stuff with. I think, and I'm just going off of memory, but there were some crazy ones. Could be like things you don't plan for, like an aerial bombardment that just fucks everyone over. And then there's also the secret missions. You don't know I have them. Things that I'm going for. Anytime there's bluffing in a game, I always appreciate that. The idea of, you don't know why I'm going to this spot. I could just say, I don't know what I'm going to do with this guy. I have no other plans for him. Let's make you think that I've got something over there. I like that you can do that in this game.
Well, and we talked earlier about the combat being first and how that you can kind of tell who can attack you and who can't. Well, with some of the action cards, like they're in the game I just played with Alex, he was asking, do any of your guys over here have rapid assault? I was like, no, but I have this action card.
Said all of them do. All of them.
Did you go, no?
All of them.
I said no. And then when it got to my turn, I was like, oh, I have this card. This tank has rapid assault now, and I can destroy this stuff.
And he still beat you handily.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a big one, because rapid assault means you get to fight, move before fighting, right?
Yeah, it's part of your combat. So you move and then you do, but then you don't move.
That's a moment where your opponent, whenever someone thinks I'm safe, like, okay, everything as is right now, I'm safe. I know your only attacks are over there, but if you have a card that lets somebody move, then attack, that's the moment that they kind of get a little worried, because it disrupts the entire sequence of the game normally.
That's when you go, you're holding up your cards, go, no, I don't. Even if you don't have that card, it'll make them think twice.
You're like, why is this written in pencil on every card? Rapid assault. Like, hey, I had to prep real quick before you came over. So in this game, Xtreme, you talked about the basic gameplay. The main rule book, I think, has 10 missions in it, and it goes from easy to complex. The idea is, if you're learning the game, start with those basic missions. I think, and I could be wrong, but they even say when starting to play, leave off the cards at the beginning, or no?
I'm sorry, you do what with them?
I thought it was like as a way to get people accustomed to the gameplay. I think, did they say to like your first couple don't use the secret missions or the other deck maybe?
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. But I know they went in sort of more complex. When you get to that last mission in the book, is that like all the tiles in the game?
Yeah, it's what I consider like the first like bigger mission, the full-size mission. It's really cool. But then during the first couple of years of the game was released, they were releasing, or Ted was releasing missions online all the time. There was a mission builder app that you can do stuff that wasn't an app at the time, but whatever. You could build your own missions and then submit them, and if he liked them, he would put them on the site too. So there was like all these other missions available that you do with starter set.
There's a bunch of PDFs out there of all kinds of extra missions. So I didn't know those were fan created. I didn't know that.
Some of them were. Some of them were created by Ted, and others were fan created that he liked a lot and ended up putting up out there too. But some of them are really cool. There's like a almost an equivalent to the Beach of Normandy invasion and stuff, and some really cool stuff on there with landing craft and those things.
So Biran, you haven't played. Mike, what's your experience with the game?
I think I first played it at your house, Xtreme. Katie and I both played it, and it was really fun. And we ended up buying the starter set, and Katie and I played it at the house, which is rare. So it gets definitely a thumbs up for that. And she'd still be willing to play it, so that's good. But again, yeah, we've played. I've only played like 10 games or something like that. That was a little while ago, but I do have very fond memories of it. And again, watching some play videos and whatnot, I was like, oh yeah, we should try that again. So
yeah, like anyone that's just got the starter set and just played through that, if you're like gamers or you can kind of see the strategy, there's definitely a point where I can see where it can get a little bland. But if you have some of the expansions too, I think it fills all that out. Because a lot of it is that rock, paper, scissors mentality of the two armies. So if all you have is the starter set, you kind of get locked into that. Whereas some of the expansions kind of break that rule a little bit. Like there's I forget what they're called. There's infantry for the Blight Empire that are essentially the same thing as the riflemen for the Allies. So you kind of get the same thing the other side had, and it goes the other way too. So at that point, it's breaking that rock, paper, scissors, like build pattern, and you have to adapt to it.
One thing I really like. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
The other big jump forward in the gameplay was the planes expansion, the Battle of Brighton. It introduced aircraft to the game, and they actually fit in between the grids on the lines, which is a little confusing at first, but once you start getting used to it, it's not that bad. And I don't know, they bring a new aspect to the game. It's pretty cool. I wish that Western Front would have been released instead of Battle of Brighton, but we can get into that later.
Now, the planes, do they just give them an armor value, or is there a special thing to target aircraft?
There's you have two different ranges on your card. You have a land range and air range. So a lot of things can't hit things in the air. Whereas the Panzerfaust, because they're shooting grenades, they can shoot things in the air, but they're not that good at it. But all the planes are armor 1, so they're fairly easy to take down. I think all of them are armor 1 of 2 wounds. So
do you think the planes were an afterthought and they squeezed it in by having them on the line? Do you think that was part of the plan the whole time?
I think it was part of like the extended plan. Like if we make it this far, we have planes ready to go. And I think, I'm kind of speculating, but I think part of like that same like later plan for Western Front would have been water stuff, because he did have images of boats and like submarine guys and like some things that would be in the water. So I think that was kind of the extended plan for Western Front that will never happen.
The basic cards had the air, the stat to shoot things in the air. So to me, that said that they were thinking.
I forgot about that. I remember seeing it on cards and just ignoring it.
Yeah.
Because I never had the plane. So that's a good point. It must have been part of it. Xtreme, I want you to touch on a really cool thing in the game that is unlike, off the top of my head, I can't think of any other game that does this. I'm sure there's a few out there. Put in the comments. But that you have a character, and then you also have a version of that character that's a plug that puts into a tank or a walking tank. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's really cool. So they have each tank has at least like one little turret type spot that comes off, and it's a plug that you can put a guy in, and that gives them another special ability or sometimes a second attack or changes their attack, makes it better. And you can do that anywhere within your territory on the mission. So you can deploy your tank one turn and move it up a couple spots, and then on the next turn, as long as you're still in your control area, you can get the plug the next turn and plug it into the tank. Then the big tanks that were released in the heavy metal expansion actually have 2 spots for plugs, so you can put 2 plugs in those. Some of the planes have plug spots too, so it's really neat the way that like things that were obviously designed for a plane, there's no reason you can't put it in a tank, and sometimes that creates like really unique things too.
Yeah, I remember playing as the Allies most of the time, and always wanted to use, is it not Patton, but it's a parody of him. I forgot. And it's like, but I remember always saving up points to put him in the thing, whatever I was putting him in, a tank or a walker, because he was okay on foot. But once I got him in this thing, then I remember him being really good. And it was worth it to sacrifice a couple turns to build up my resources. Is that common with this game?
Well, I don't know if it's first. He's awesome on foot. There's a trick that you have to learn to him, and then he's super awesome on his horse. But the plug's very good too. I don't know. There's some of the the plugs are either for flavor or additional attacks. I think like usually the ability they give you isn't like super overpowered, or it just makes it a little bit better. It's worth getting, but not like something that's required. But Patson, he has rapid assault as a buff. That's something else to get into too. Characters have buffs, and they give that skill to anybody in their grid usually. So he has rapid assault. So he takes up 2 spots because he's on a horse, but anyone in the other 2 spots gains rapid assault. Well, he can rapid assault and choose not to attack on his rapid assault and move up, so he can give that buff to one grid and then move up, and now that grid gets that as well when they activate, because that grid hasn't been attacked.
Does he confer it to a tank he's riding in?
I don't think. I don't remember what his plug does. I don't use the character plugs as often.
I might be thinking of a different Allied commander, because I don't remember him. The one I either had one on foot and then one in the tank, so I don't know if it was the one on horse. But there's a lot of different characters in the game. Some in the expansion, some that came out like Kickstarter specials, and some parodies. I've got a couple up there.
Ciao.
Man in Charge, not Samuel Jackson, Nick Fury. Baby Doll, which is not Sucker Punch, and the Veteran, which is definitely not John Rambo. Definitely not. I remember being a lot of characters. Is this a situation where there's really a few that are used to be competitive and the rest are just for funsies?
I would say so. Like you kind of like it depends on what you want to do with each of them. Like each of them has a purpose that it serves, but do you want to play that style or in that battle or at that time? The one cool thing is like, because you're constantly just flooding out, like all your troops are just nameless dudes that you're just constantly sending more and more out, which kind of gives you that feel of just having hundreds of them. But the characters, once they die, you can't bring them back. So it's the character. There is kind of the weird rule where if the character has a character plug, if the character dies, you can still use the plug, which is kind of weird, but that rule's in there.
You can bring in. If you bring in the character, you can then bring in the plug version of them later on. I remember not liking that rule.
Yeah, they can't be on the battlefield.
If the Patton stand-in dies, you could bring in Patton as a plug.
Yeah, they can't be on the battlefield at the same time, but if one of them dies, you can still use the other version of them.
No, already house ruled. That's out. I never played with it. Never will. In all the games I have planned in the future of this, it will not be allowed. All of them.
So, yeah, one of the other weird things with the characters too, like all the characters are really cool. The big thing is the ones that give out buffs, because it kind of changes the attitude of that side of your army, at least, which the Ruskas have one we can get to in a minute. But one of the other things that you have neutral heroes. So that I think there's like 5, 6 neutral heroes, and it's basically whoever hires it first gets to have it, which I think man in charge is neutral.
Is that why he's because the colored plastics are? Is that, I mean, with the intention of not painting? I think the veteran is ally, which is why he's green, and Baby Doll and Samuel Jackson are other colors because anyone can use them.
Yeah, the neutrals were all odd colors. They weren't the gray or green.
So the purple guy is not Hitler. Finally, someone settled that for me. Because, I mean, if it was, you couldn't hire him in the Allies, right?
Isn't the purple guy the not Red Skull?
Is that what that was?
I think so.
Did you paint them?
I never had him. For some reason, I saw a picture of his face, and I thought that was supposed to be like their parody Hitler. I never had the model.
I don't think you could do a parody Hitler unless you're Mel Brooks.
That's allowed then. Well, if it was parody Red Skull, they should be allies either then, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Just saying. And ironically, he's based on a cube. Well, a square. Not really. So, Xtreme, in this game, the majority of people that play are playing allies or Blight, because those are the models that were out. That's obviously most of anyone who's heard of this game or played this game, that's the majority of their experience. You keep talking about these other things. I mean, is that kind of, I mean, it never really came out. So is that even, I mean, you're more than welcome to talk about it. It's your show as much as it's my show. But is that even relevant anymore, about all these cool things that are out there that no one even has rules or plays with?
Well, the only thing that didn't get like an official release from Comirnaty was the Ruska army. Like everything else did get an official release.
The Ottomans, it came out?
Well, the Ottomans never had anything. But the Ruskas you can actually buy. And I mean, he never released the cards or anything.
They were close to getting that one done, so people have seen that through a little bit.
Yeah, he's done the models and in theory the rules for all of the Ruska and Ottomans. They've just never seen a published release.
Okay.
Which kind of sucks, because one of the things that really, I mean, even more than before, because I think any game first becomes a full game when you have 4 armies to choose from. And I see where that plan was there to get to that point with this game. And then when he put the Ruska rules up, like, it's different than the other 2 armies, and in an exciting way where it brings this new element to the game. And you could just imagine if, we had the full Ruska rules, full Ottoman rules, how exciting that would be to have 4 completely different armies. And then it becomes this big game. And
would have been really cool to see other armies instead of 100 expansion boxes.
Yeah, and that's why I really wish the Western Front would have come out instead of the planes. Maybe do planes and boats and stuff later on, or hold that back and get the Western Front out earlier. But I see that where the Western Front would be the main box and the second Kickstarter that you would be selling.
We were chatting a little bit earlier about it. Biran did his usual, like, if he sees a square base, he kind of like he smelled a fart. He's got like a square base.
Like a cat that smells something weird and they hold their mouth open.
Yeah. I don't know why I remember this, because it might be something like Biran dreams things. Was there something in the base to put notches for wounds, or am I making that up?
Nope, that's a real thing. Every base, even if the model only has 1 wound, the bases have spots to put little wound markers in. So it's really only useful on like characters that have several wounds or tanks and stuff like that.
Because normally you just you hit 1 hit on somebody and they die. One thing I want to bring up to you, Xtreme, and you've brought this up in other of our episodes, you like dice economy, when 1 dice roll handles multiple things. In this game, you roll a d6, a 5 or a 6 is a hit, 1 to 4 is nothing, which I'm going to bring that up in the cons because I don't like that. I'll tell you why later on. But from a dice rolling perspective, that's it. I roll it. I'm attacking 5 or 6. He's dead. You pull him off. There's no other rolling to determine wounds, right?
Nope. It's 5 or 6, and they're dead, or they take a wound.
And having
And
more
you do one
dice
move.
just means you have more chances to get a 5 or a 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, each attack can only do 1 wound. So even if you have 3 dice, you just need 1, 5, or 6 to do the wound.
That was the advantage of the riflemen, where it was that they get 3 dice on everything, so they're mowing down all infantry.
Yeah, they're very good against infantry, and they can't hit anything else.
I saw there was like a flamethrower thing that was only good against infantry, and it was rolling 3 dice.
Yeah, but so there is one special ability that lets you hit on a 4. That's somewhat common.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
Kind of sniper something.
Yeah, which I kind of didn't like that because I was going to have custom dice made with just 2 hits on it. But then you kind of need that 3rd side just in case that skill comes in.
Exactly. Why didn't they make it? Cool Mini or not likes to make their own dice. Why didn't they make their own symbol with like a rivet icon on 2 out of the 6 sides?
That's what Dust does. There's 2 of the 6 that are hits, and the rest are blanks. And the way the way they handle it is if you have someone that's a super badass, they hit on blanks instead of hits to switch it up.
I mean, they could have had a custom die that was like 2 full rivets for hits and then like a half rivet if you have precision, which is a special ability. I don't know why they didn't. They made custom dice for the Kickstarter that just had like cool font numbers and then logos on the 6s. I don't know why they didn't do it.
Not the logos on the 1, thankfully.
No.
I think the ones I got in the box at retail were just brown D6s.
Yeah, they were.
They already had in the factory, so why not use them, I guess.
I mean, there's no excuse for them not having custom dice because this came out after Super Dungeon Explorer that was all custom dice. So it's not like it's nothing they hadn't done before.
Well, clearly they didn't treat this game with any sort of respect.
That or they just, I mean, there's certain things they wanted to do on the cheap. You know, they figured give you D6s, give you flat terrain, and the real nerds can figure out more shit afterwards. But for the normies, that's going to be good enough. Give me the flat bunker, the flat barbed wire, all that kind of stuff, and that's what's in the box. And there's still a shit ton of models in the box. But I like custom dice. I think a lot of people do at this point because we're used to it. We're used to different symbols doing different things. This is a hit and something. This is a hit only if this happens, and this is always a hit, that kind of stuff. This one being just D6s, I always expected, okay, so using D6s, then there's got to be a chart, right? My guys this guy has to be better. I have 3+ this guy. Nope, everybody's 5 or 6, no matter what. I don't know what it was that always bothered me a little bit.
It's possible that
your elite status. How many dice?
It's possible that the D6s were like for future proofing the game too, because there's a lot of that in there. Like they had Armor 5 stuff on all the cards, and realistically, I've never seen any plans for an Armor 5 like Titan or anything, but it was there once they got to it. They were ready. So it's possible the D6 was going to do other things for special situations.
Okay, that's a good point. Could have been. Xtreme, say someone's watching this right now. Sounds like a cool game. The guy in the hat sold me. Not the annoying guy in the hat, but the other guy in the hat. He sold me. Where do I buy it? Can I go to Grognard in Rose, Illinois, or no?
No, so that's a fun question. Where do you buy it? Amazon, you could buy it at retail still. I would not encourage that. eBay, you can get it for a pretty good price. Miniature Market has a lot of the expansions, and some of them are super cheap. The Heavy Metal was one that I didn't get in the Kickstarter. It's the big, huge tanks with the 2 plugs. So I ended up buying that, so I had everything.
Was that the one where it only had 2 tanks in it because they were huge? Is it that one?
It had 2 tanks, and then it had, I think, character plugs that went with it too.
And how much did you get that for?
They were selling it for $12, so I went ahead and got 2 of them. I mean, I'll never have that many huge tanks, but
$12 is $12.
Yeah.
It's both. It's kind of a good time to get in the game and a not so good time to get at the same time. it's great if you are Hobo Hammer and you want to play a new game with cool models on the cheap. It's not so great because there is a ceiling and eventually you're going to hit it and you're probably going to stop playing. I mean, do you think this game, as its current state, will have a lifespan? Like, would you be outside of you playing with your son once a year for a big thing, with nothing out there? I don't see it being an ongoing game for anybody.
I would say it's as close to dead as it can get right now. I don't think you're going to find people playing it, and I think I mentioned it earlier. Like, there's no reason this game can't have a cult following right now if it just had a little online support trickling out here or there. But I just think anyone that really loved the game has given up on it at this point, because there hasn't been anything released in so long. Not only has there not been anything released, but there hasn't been any news, or like the one big news that you released 2 years ago, you've never been able to follow up with the one missing card that's pretty key to that big news thing that you put out. Like, you can't even do like the bare minimums. So I don't know. What we
Any
have is what
truth
we're
to the
going to
rumor that you're going to create an independent organization with rankings and take this game and take it not dead, it's revived. It's fucking clear. It's up. It's ready to go. Xtreme says we're doing a new version of Rivet Wars. We're making our own Tesla card. Fuck that guy. We're going to do our own thing. Any truth to that rumor? I read it. A lot of people were asking. A lot of people were asking me, and I want to clarify.
No, there's no truth to that rumor. I definitely intend to get the Ruska models, and I'm trying to paint everything up, and I'm going to get those painted up. And I do have my draft of what I think the Tesla rules should be. And I kind of think I'm going to make my own sniper model for the Ruskas, like a female sniper, and make up rules for that. So I'll start going down that kind of house rule path soon, which I guess is the only path to go on with this game right now, unfortunately.
Do you talk to anyone from the group, that small group that still wants to play? I don't know if it's forums or Facebook group. Is there a conversation, or is this all in your head right now?
I mean, when I say there's a small group active online right now, I mean there's like 2 other people that are somewhat active online. So
are they weirdos, or are they okay guys? I
mean, one of them has a bunch of YouTube videos up, Landship Scorpio, so you can check out his channel. He went through stuff, and make your own judgment. I'm not gonna characterize.
I pick up what you're putting down. Wink's as good as a nod to a blind man. I got you.
Yeah, Biran, I mean, he's very particular. He may watch YouTube in all hours of the night, but if it's not a canal video, I mean,
or does he do ASMR Rivet Wars?
You gotta worry. Yeah.
I haven't seen anybody do any of those. No.
Now put the plug inside. Oh man. So what's the next steps for people that want? I mean, you mentioned how to acquire this game. It's a little difficult. It's going to be the usual. Here's a game. What do I do? What's next steps for anyone that really likes playing it?
Well, if you don't have anything right now, go on eBay and find. There's 4 or 5 people all the time selling their Kickstarter pledges. You want the Kickstarter pledges because you get all the characters that were Kickstarter only.
Are they down to being realistic now, or do they still think they're going to get Kickstarter value?
Some of them are realistic. There's still some crazy people there, and there's like, of all the models in Rivet Wars, there's only a few that have become actual rare models. The Treasure Hunter, the not Indiana Jones model, was always like after the Kickstarter. It was a promo figure. It's one of those cool mini or not promo figures. So it was kind of hard to come by. So sometimes it'll be like $25, $30.
That was the one you expected to get for the faux pas.
For your trouble.
You were hoping for that for your trouble. 2 of them, really. And probably a third. One to keep in the package. Maybe a fourth. One to put on the table. One for my son. One for my daughter. So maybe 6.
And one for Luna. Yeah.
And one for Luna. And one to auction off on Zlurpcast. So Ted, maybe 10. What's he called? Like Illinois Johnson? Because he can't say Indiana Jones. What's he called? I'm guessing Illinois Johnson. Oh, Treasure Man. Treasure Hunter. All right.
Is this where we announce where you can win Xtreme's entire Rivet Wars collection by commenting.
Yeah, so basically, if you take all the thumbnails of all Zlurpcasts, print them out, and cut out each one, that's your proof of purchase. You mail those with a SAS, S-A-S-E, self-addressed stamped envelope, send it to
Lois
some
Lane.
house, Lois Lane, and we'll see what happens.
And you could also send away for a transcript of this podcast.
Or just watch it again real slow and write everything down. That also works on the cheap.
Include that in your envelope with your proof of purchase.
Let's
But back to your question.
Oh, okay.
So you go on eBay, you buy someone's Kickstarter thing, and then you have a group of gaming friends, and you bring it out and you play with those friends. And that's probably going to be all your experience with the game, but you'll have a blast every time you bring it out. I don't think it's going to be like...
if you have the F word, if you have friends, now what if you don't? You want to, and I'm just saying, and I'm not even, you can take it as a joke, but think about, we talked in many episodes, Biran, if you want to pitch out to your heart's content, we got clubs and champion a game, and, if you smell, whatever, all that stuff that we talk about. What if you don't have a group? Your group is whoever's on the game at the game store on Friday nights. That's who you play games with. It's primarily 40K. Every now and then they're playing a board game. How do you crack this one into there?
Unfortunately, if you don't have friends, then you're probably not playing Rivet Wars. It is easy to introduce to non-gamers because all the mechanics are super simple and you pick up on them right away. But you have to introduce it to somebody. There's not other Rivet Wars players that you're going to bump into to play.
Yeah, I would agree. It's one of the easiest, like in a war-themed game. Obviously, it's comedy too, but if a war theme, I don't know if I've ever seen an easier rule set in a game to comprehend than this one. They make it super simple. Everything's on the card, and you got one die. And now you might do dumb shit because you don't know what you're doing, but as far as knowing the rules, usually most war games are a little more complex. So you can get that fix if you want to do some reenactment battle of sorts, but it's so light that anyone could play it. It really is for board gamers. This is not for Warhammer players, right?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And it also passes the, whatever you want to call it, and when you walk by the table, it looks cool. And it attracts that second look too. Because you get all the tiles out, it has like this full battlefield feel, and you have the tanks and stuff walking around.
But it's not intimidating because everything's sort of cutesy.
Yeah, and it has a cool walk-by factor without being painted. That's rare. Usually the walk-by goes along with, oh, you made it look cool. You added some artistic elements. And it doesn't, it would be nice if it was painted, but I don't know if it's because of the shape of the figures or what, but, to me, some of the coolest figures, yeah, I guess you could have done something to them, but, some of those, like, walking tanks, that are full of rivets, keeping with the theme, they look awesome on their own, especially the gray ones, the Blight Empire. They already look cool, I guess is my point. You don't have to paint them to feel like you're going to fit in more.
Which is also funny because Dust also does the same thing where each army is its own color. And Nazis are gray, always.
Because being a Nazi is a gray area.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, gray.
I'm just saying. What extreme side?
All that like walk by appeal and how welcoming the game is because of the cute models and everything and the colored plastics all leads to this game should have more of a following than it does. Like this game should have a life to it, and it's really sad that it doesn't.
Before we get into our pros and cons,
question, though,
Extreme,
does it have a little bit of, what is this game? And go, you've probably never heard of it.
A little bit hipster, a little bit?
No, I think I would just be excited for anyone to ask about it. Like, oh, let me show you what this game is.
You would pounce and creep them the fuck out.
So, Xtreme, you said all of these things, a list of things, why isn't this bigger? So are you able to answer the question, what happened, or are you not able to answer that?
I think the big thing that happened is Ted Terranova is really good at a lot of things, but like, I don't know, self-promotion or promotion of the game after the fact isn't one of his strengths, and he really depended on Cool Mini or Not to get the game out there in front of people.
He likes to
And
hit
now
it and quit it, is what you would say?
Well, I just don't think it's high on his list right now. I think he still has a love for the game, but not like the passion to deal with all the other BS on the business side of keeping things going. So it's easier just to kind of ignore it.
Do you know, is it possible Cool Mini or Not didn't have as much, I don't want to say stake in the game, but is there a financial reason why they're like, you know what, why focus on that when we got all this and we own all this? Is that part of it?
Yeah. I don't know for sure, but I think I'm guessing that yes, because they were getting a smaller cut in this. And this was one of the early Kickstarters too. So at the time it looked huge. But now if you compare that to some of the other Cool Mini or Not, it looks kind of small. I think it was in the 500, 600,000 range, which at the time looked massive. It was like, oh my gosh, you just became rich. But compared to some of the other Cool Mini or Not, zombie sides and stuff that easily
Some of them were like
million.
I think 3 million was one of the, like Black Plague, I think was like 3 million.
So,
was this in
so
the era of, sorry, go ahead.
So I think when they look at that, like the total number they brought in, and then the fact that maybe they're making less money off it, or only the publisher, it's probably easier for them to focus on things that were making more money.
Sort of a follow-up on that, and this relates a little bit back to our, I forgot, it might have been our Gaming Regrets episode. Biran, you want to put out that for me? Okay. Great work. We talked about Kickstarters, regrettable Kickstarters, going all in. Where's the sweet spot? What's the 150, 125?
$200 is the new sweet spot, inflation.
Do you think this came along at a time where we were all doing this, and if it was coming along now, we'd be like, I'll take the game for 60 and see what happens?
Possibly. I still think I would have got super excited about this game now, had it come out, and I probably would have gone to at least the sweet spot. But yeah, sure. It definitely came at that time where people were throwing money at Kickstarters, and it was easy to get carried away. But I
think a lot of us are wising up, or at least we like to think we are.
I've canceled more Kickstarters than I've pledged.
Yeah,
back down in the
I canceled one that was like, I canceled like a $30 one, which usually would have been like a forget about it. If I ever get it, who cares? And I was like, you know what? This is going to be in some box that sits on a shelf, and I'm never going to play. Who cares? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's, and this could be its own episode one day, but I don't know if that's a byproduct of doing Kickstarter, like backing Kickstarters and being disappointed, or if that's just as a whole, it's not the pool of money that everyone once thought, and people are getting a little smarter because I didn't back a lot, but my friends all say they're stupid, so I'm not going to do that. Like, do you think it's all of the above maybe with Kickstarters?
It's not always just being disappointed too. It's like that flood of games that you get. Like, sure, you can like 20 different Kickstarters, but do you need to back 20 different Kickstarters? Then they all come and you just have all this crap everywhere. Like, you're never going to get a chance. You don't have the time to play all these games. So maybe we don't back these 10 that we still think look cool, but we're not going to back them.
And also, it's like, if it's not something that's going to be fulfilled soon-ish, like they've already ramped up production and this is the final push, I'm like, if I don't get it for a year, I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to put money on that.
Before we get to our pros and cons, last question for Xtreme. If Ted Terranovas happen to be watching this video, maybe I sent it to him on the side. What would you do to help further this game in exchange for 5 to 10 treasure hunter models?
Well, I have my treasure hunter. You only need one. I have one. So.
Okay. I thought it was like Zlurpcast, where it was like a currency, where you want more, just in case we go back to the treasure hunter standard. And I'm like, I got 20 of them, and they're all worth 200 apiece. If there was an option for you to help run a fan-created content kind of thing, would you want to do that, or would you rather like, you know what, I like what I've done with it. It's a thing for me and my son. I'm fine if it never goes any further.
I think at the point now where it's at, I could see myself putting some effort into doing some things online and creating some fan content. If it were ever to get big, then I would want to pass that off on someone else and kind of step away again. But right now where there's nothing, I could see myself jumping in and doing some stuff. And on the ridiculously impossible off chance that Ted is watching this, I just want to say, like, anything that I said is negative isn't really negative. Like, I love the game. I love all your artwork and everything you've done for it. I'm just disappointed that it's still not around.
You're
think-
not mad. You're disappointed.
Yeah, although he's still pretty excited. I think the kids would say Xtreme is being thirsty right now. Is that what they would say?
I think they would say he's being sus. That's what they say now.
He's being what?
Sus. S-U-S.
I don't even know what that is.
It's from a game that the kids are playing.
It's from Among Us. Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's suspect. But he's not being suspect.
I think he's trying to get into this guy's pants.
Yeah. Is that suspect?
That's
Wait,
fair.
trying to get into pants is suspect? Since when?
Well, if you're trying to get into pants, but you're trying to pretend you're not, that's suspect.
Let's do our pros and cons of this game, and do pros. Xtreme, why don't you kick it off, because you have the most experience and the most passion for this game.
One of the big pros is that we talked about, it's appealing to non-gamers, and it pulls people in a little bit to at least ask a question of what it is. The gameplay is super simple to learn, but there's a lot of strategic and tactical options and choices to make still, so it's not a light game necessarily. It's just easy to learn. And the walk-by appeal looks really cool, and the cuter models bring people in as well. So yeah, the ability to get into the game very easily, I think, is a big plus.
Mike, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I would mirror a lot of that because, again, Katie plays it and would continue to play it. So it's easy. It's fast. I haven't played any of the Scenario 10 yet, but the first few games we played, I mean, you can get done in under an hour, and the models are just amazing. They're well done. But they're cute, but you know, they serve a function. And like I said, the color, they're distinct enough. You can tell them from across the board. Yeah, really well done.
Did you guys argue when you played it all, Mike, or no?
Well, we were playing at Xtreme's house, so no.
Oh, so everyone's on their best behavior.
Yeah. None of this, you know.
Did anyone shit on the floor?
No one shit on the floor.
Okay. My pros, similar to what they said, you know, it's rare to see a war-themed game have a comedic approach. Usually that's something that you just don't do. It's like, no, if you're playing a war game, you want, oh, that guy, you better paint it correct. Is that the correct color of, what is it, Biran? Dunkel yellow or whatever, you know, it's like, is that the correct, I better have the right shade, or else. This is not like that at all. This is a fun game, easy game. Anyone can jump in and learn it and play rather quickly. Cool looking models. It's made well. I don't want to talk about the tiles because that's going to be a con for me about the warping, but the models are made well. They're done well with the purpose, with the little, you know, slots in there, and they're also just crafted well. They don't ever feel cheap at all. There was no assembly. You just bust them open, and it's real plastic. So if you wanted to spray them and paint them, I bet it would take the paint pretty well. Or you could just throw them in a box and not worry about stuff either, because it's also not a kind of game where things are going to get broken off. The models are all pretty chunky. So the rule book is very small. Most of its missions anyway. I think the rules itself are probably 6 or 7 pages at the most. It's just a fun game. And I think that if that's all you want out of this, you'll be happy with it. If you're expecting more, I think you might just be disappointed. But if you just want a fun game out of the box, Rivet Wars does that. Biran.
Like Mike said, I think having not played it, but any game that can play quickly and plays on a grid, I'm all for. No assembly that you mentioned before is always good, especially for something it's not a hobby game, it's just a game. And also the constant spawn mechanic where you're building up resources and you spend them on your turn to buy units or save the rivets at least up to buy a big walking tank thing is cool. The slotting characters into the tanks, that sounds awesome. So yeah, those are my pros.
Were you Xtreme? You're saving both rivet points and gold because you got to spend both,
yep.
Right?
for the big tanks, you need rivets. For regular troops, you don't, right?
I remember some missions like always feeling like, oh, if only I had more rivets, I could actually do something. Because they're just, but it was designed to be a low resource game or mission.
Yeah. You have to spend your coins every turn, but you can save the rivets from one turn to the next. So that also guarantees that the tanks aren't going to come out till like round 2, 3, like a little bit later on. So that gives you
the spider tank was like 3 rivets.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may as well spend all your gold because it starts over at the next turn. You can't bank.
The only thing you can say, the only thing you can bank is your rivets.
When you played Xtreme, did you link any games like saving rivets from game 1 to game 2 at all, or no?
No, not really. We never did.
Okay.
Could you do a variant like Tanksgiving type variant where everything's tanks and you get more rivets? Like a Monty Hall type game?
We didn't make it all tanks, but we did. We played on a very large map, and we did 8 deployment points, 2 rivets per turn.
Okay.
So we had a lot of big stuff out there.
Great.
But I lost.
Xtreme. If you want to put how you fared in Tanksgiving against your son in the cons, feel free. It's you're up.
My cons, the biggest con is the lack of releases and lack of any kind of online news or content about the game. And the fact that now it's gotten to the point where it's harder to find those new copies of the game still around. So it's, you can kind of see if it's not dead, you can see the end in sight, and he's resurrected. So that's the big con right now.
It's at hospice, would you say?
Yeah.
It's being made comfortable.
Well, I don't know about hospice because it can still be turned around. Like we can turn this thing around. We could fix it.
And I would say it's not being made comfortable either. It's definitely not. This is probably in a coma, we'll say.
But like
right,
the movie Coma where they're suspended by wires.
Yeah, but then it's the end of the movie, something magical is going to happen, but we'll see. The end of the movie might be 3 years from now.
Like Michael Douglas might save it at the very end?
Might.
Okay.
Any other cons, Xtreme, or is that it?
I really can't think of any.
So as a game, you have no negatives as a straight up game.
I mean, the biggest disappointment is just
That
stuff
Alex is
outside
better
the
than
game.
you at it?
Well, that sucks. But like, if Western Front had been released, I just think this game becomes like its full form. Like, and we never got to that. So now it's a really cool game, but you could look at it like this game could have been even cooler if we would have had this one release that introduced.
If Western Front got released, what would that be? The Americans and who else?
No, the Americans would be the allies that are currently released. The Western Front would have been the Russians and Ottoman Empire.
It's kind of the opposite. Is that part of the world, the Blight world? Everything is opposite.
I don't know. The whole map was a different world.
The map is not the same as our map. Right?
It's not Mantica.
No.
It's not. Or what is it? Pythagoras? What's it called now, Mike?
Panathor.
Oh yeah, Panthro.
Petaphor.
Yeah.
So you wanted Western Front because you wanted to play as the commies, right?
Yeah.
No, I just like the. I mean, yes, but no. I just like the new mechanics that it brings in, and then you have 4 different acting armies. And I
The
think
mechanic that the state owns all the means of production, and you like that?
No.
I will say, to be fair, if Xtreme is kind of living out the fantasy right now, no matter how much money he has, he can't get it. Like, it's been rationed. Like, there's only a handful of those out there.
You're in the bread lines with Bernie, waiting for more Rivet Wars.
Available.
You're waiting in line, and it's never happening.
Yeah.
That's pretty sad.
Okay. Mike, what are your cons for the game?
I had a couple of minor things with just the tiles, like you said. If they get bumped, and I wish there was some way I know if you have like a locking mechanism, it's also going to because they're cardboard tiles, it's going to chip away at them. But there are a couple times where the board got bumped and the cart. So
Yeah, my board was a mess. It was they were all like, I don't know how it's possible to have like 6 pieces all warp in a different way where none of them were next to each other. Could you imagine if there was a mat for this? Because then the models wouldn't even move much because they had a little bit of tackiness to it. But Xtreme, was there ever talk about a mat or no?
No.
Maybe
So, I mean,
a
you have
snow-covered
double
one for the Western Front, snow-covered mat.
Mat?
No, they were double-sided tiles, and then you had to put down certain tiles for the missions. So I think a mat you would need, you know.
Yeah, you would still need something to configure them how they want.
yeah.
But you think you could make one for your annual Tanksgiving event? You could maybe get one made.
I think you would. Yeah. You know, it's kind of when you talk about the walk by aspect of games. If I walk past the game at a game store and I see tiles work, because they're never going to be like perfect. Like anything that happens, things move. Like what was the one? It was I actually think it was Drop Zone, where the game came with cardboard, like lightweight card. These are at least thicker, lightweight cardboard, and it was like, this is ridiculous. That takes you out of everything because you see all these cool models in a cool game, but then it's like, wait, we're all basically on loose leaf paper. Is that what we're all doing now? This one, at least they had a little substance to them, but mine were all fucked from the beginning. I tried every which way to get them, but I would love to see some better solution for that.
Would a wealthy person buy enough neoprene to cover every scenario?
Sure. I mean, that's like what.
If it's the only game you play, would it really be that expensive?
That would probably still be pretty expensive.
Yeah. Well, maybe like what I spent on 40K in the last 20 years. It'd be less than that.
If you did a custom 4x6 and then cut the tiles out on your own, it might not be that expensive. I mean, it would still be a big investment, but I do have long-term plans after I get my Ruska to make my own Stalingrad equivalent mission and then do a neoprene snow-covered mat for that.
A snow-covered mat, you say?
Yeah. I know a place to put those. Or at least not those, but a shirt about those.
A shirt about it, yes.
Zlurpcast.net. Anyone want to take bets on whether Xtreme actually fulfills that promise or not?
I wouldn't bet against it. I saw his Z's display board.
Okay.
That he used.
Well, Biran, if you want to make it interesting, you let me know, because I'm going to say no.
What odds you give me?
Well, you're so adamant that he's going to go through with it. I don't expect to give you any special odds.
On this bet, you also have to have a timeline of some kind. There has to be a cutoff point.
It'd be by next Tanksgiving.
Yeah.
Should we let people, if you want, in the comments below, feel free to make wagers. It's not binding, but we do get 10% of everything.
Yep. The grand prize winner might get a SMAT shirt.
Might.
They can get an invitation to Tanksgiving.
Ooh. That's not,
you really want to invite anyone that listens to this over to her Tanksgiving? What if the Canadians listening?
I mean, if they're going to play Rivet Wars, what are my options?
Would you play Rivet Wars as a convicted sex offender?
I don't know.
That's half our audience.
Biran's like, this guy got too many umlauts, and Xtreme's like, bring him in. Fucking A. That's actually helpful in this scenario. We need him. Valdric, you were talking about the tiles. Any other cons you want to get into?
No, I'll leave the rest for you. So.
Okay. Doing an episode about a dead game takes some balls, some like chibi plastic balls, as big as Biran's head. Because if you think about it, we did all these other episodes about games that are they're prospering to a point, most of them.
Or existing.
Some of the Mantic games might have some hurdles, we'll say. But doing an episode on a dead game, that's a huge con. Just this episode is a con. That's one. But no, man, think about it though. Just getting into a game now. Xtreme did the fucking Kickstarter, and you held on to it after you got rid of almost everything else. You're a different bird for many reasons, but that one in particular. someone else that wants to add another game to their collection, I don't know if anything this episode sold them on it, because they might have been like, oh, wait, it's not even out anymore? Did this even come out? Like we said about Warpath, this one did. We know it came out. We have proof it came out. And then it went away. Playing at your game store, good luck. That game store is not going to carry it. So there's going to be issues with that as well. I know that Todd in Rose, Illinois, he does frown on games he can't sell. And I don't blame him. I'd be the same way. Maybe buy enough shit like Biran and gets you a pass.
Yep.
Came in and just didn't buy anything and played this. Like, what the fuck? So as a game, it's fun. I'm not going to take anything away from that. But going with the cons, the tiles were always a problem for me. I don't like the 5+ roll. I think that's a cop-out of a roll. I think you could do way more. If you're using D6s, it needs to be a stat to me. Otherwise, why do it? It just seems like arbitrary. Like they went in with 4s, then it's like, well, make it a 5. We did some more playtesting. It seems like there could have been more things to do. Like maybe 5's a hit, 6 is a crit, does 2 wounds or something. Something, or only certain weapons that can explode. I almost wanted it to do something else. But if you want the dice economy and simplicity of it, it's there for you. I would have liked to see more with it. Outside of that, there's not really other cons about the game. I think the missions are well designed to both train you as you build up. You start in mission 1, you go to the end, and then you get to full tactical game of you get a lot of resources, you get a lot of stuff to do, you got a lot of things you're going for. You can play the game in many different ways, especially based on the commanders and buffs. Oh, I'll put this in as a con. While the models are really cool looking, and you do get, so that's a pro, and you're building, and each turn you have new resources, that's a pro, and kind of innovative compared to other games. Here's the con of it. You are at the mercy of the models you own. So inevitably, it becomes a very collectible game, because who the hell wants to play, especially Xtreme, you and I are playing, okay? You've got your army, I've got mine. I'm buying my own shit. Right now it's different because you have everything, but if you're just buying your army, I'm buying mine. It's almost a 40K level of, I better get more stuff because this guy's bringing in, these giant walkers and I only have this. So you want to have a lot of stuff so you can spend those resources accordingly based on how the game's going. Am I wrong in that as a con, Xtreme?
No, I think this is definitely one of those games where it's almost a one person owns the game and then 2 people play it type game. It kind of fits into that board game aspect in that way too, where it's going to be very rare that 2 people are bringing their own stuff to it. It's usually one person brought all their stuff. We're going to play it. But yeah,
so
if you were playing it where each person brought their own stuff, then definitely it would be who bought the most.
Wouldn't a tournament? I mean, if that was supposed to be a tournament at Gen Con, I'm assuming everybody, you're probably going to see Ally versus Ally or Blight versus Blight because you can't help it. There's only 2, but I would imagine it's a bring your army game, right? At a tournament.
I mean, I don't remember.
I guess they would have to actually have held a tournament ever for us to know.
Yeah. There was a tournament rules pack that Ted put out. I don't even know if I've read it. I have it printed off, but I don't know. I've
get
never seen a
everything and
tournament.
don't be a hobo.
Yeah, I mean, you only need one of everything because of the way everything plays off of each other. You don't really need to go out and buy 3 or 4 of the same expansion.
Is there a part of you that appreciates that it's a dead game because now there's a ceiling to what you have to buy?
Yes. I've always not intentionally, because I know it's not healthy for the game, but I tend to jump into new games that just came out and be really excited about them. And then as soon as the line starts expanding, be like, whoa, that's too much. I'm out.
Marvel Crisis Protocol?
Yes. So this one, knowing that, this is it, this is all there is some comfort to that.
Although now you're going on Shapeways, so I guess that throws that out.
Yeah, but still, it's almost like a desperation purchase at this time. But what can I spend my money on for this game?
Okay. So that kind of wraps up our pros and cons. Anything else we should cover about the game? Oh, Biran. Sorry.
I have cons.
Yeah, you are a con. And you condescend to the Zlurpcast again.
I agree with the slidey boards. Neoprene is now a requirement for every game I play.
Yeah, snap.
The anime feel, because I really don't like anime, and they remind me of anime and the chibi-ness of them. And also, I wrote down here, where's my top hat? Because I imagine if this game was popular enough to have a con scene, it would be similar to like what you might see in a Malifaux room of people going into the diesel punk with their trench coat and their top hat and their monocle.
Yeah, and like a weird looking revolver that would never actually work the way they designed it.
Well, because it's also a vape pen.
Oh, got it. Yeah. It was actually a plastic candy cane, like one of those with the candies inside, and they just repurposed, like the land speeder deodorant.
Yeah.
It's hobo.
Like they would talk, they would dress up as their favorite character. Like you'd have a guy, a morbidly obese guy dressing up as the adventurer, you know?
Yeah, I would see. So that guy's at Gen Con. He goes up to get chicken fingers. He asks how many rivets, and looks over to his friends for approval of his joke. Yeah. Bill's like, dude, I got a long line. Come on. He's like, how many rivets for a corn dog? Okay.
How many rivets, m'lady?
Yeah. Yeah, Xtreme. There's some characters with top hats in this game, right?
Yeah, there's an Uncle Sam character.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Have you painted yours, Xtreme, or no?
Not yet. I have 3 models from other people I need to paint first, then I'm going to start painting them.
I think I want to.
No, people that he feels obligated to, not us.
Yeah, you know. Oh, that's different. People who paint them. What are your plans to paint them? Are they going to look in like traditional World War I-ish?
The allies are going to be traditional. The Blight, I want to do black and red.
Okay.
So black with some red accents, kind of First Order-ish.
Okay. What about like a black and white paint style with red highlights, of sort of like a
Sin City?
Yeah, you should do that. That sounds easy.
Sounds like, yeah.
Here's an option.
300
How
models.
about you just like spray it black and then dry brush chainmail, whatever the fuck it's called, chainmail, whatever it is now, and call it a day. Because if it's rivets and machines, you're good, right?
All the oil on there, and yeah.
Oh yeah,
little zenithal from above.
Oh yeah, or just spray it silver, then null it. Even easier. No dry brushing needed. You're good. So all right,
we're giving Xtreme painting tips.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, we're giving sarcastic.
The hobo tips. Yeah.
Not only sarcastic painting tips, but also in a way kind of demeaning,
insulting to his brand.
Insulting to his ability, but more importantly, insulting to a game that he just loves now. And we're telling him how you should just do a whatever. Because who's going to see it anyway, right? Xtreme, what's your favorite model in the game?
I really like the ostrich, the Allies walker tank.
And that's you can put a guy in that one?
Yes.
Yeah. As a plug in it.
Perfect.
Now, do you got to be careful with those plugs so it doesn't rub the paint off when you eventually do paint them?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to scrape the paint out of the hole, and
you may want to get 2 of everything just in case. I have one for a plug guy and one for that.
So yeah, paint them all separate. Every plug option separate.
One for the shelf too. So we're looking at 3. Yeah. And maybe
the shelf one you don't have to do the varnish over, so you can leave it pristine.
So one pristine, maybe one in the car for cons, just to have someone hey, what's up, man? I saw you buying chicken fingers. You tried to pay in rivets. Do you want to go in the parking lot and throw down? So maybe 6 to have one for that guy to play with. So maybe 6 of each.
I appreciate you encouraging that gamer sickness of buying more, but at some point I'm probably going to buy another starter box so I can rip all the models off the bases and have those bases for my Ruska models because they don't come with bases.
That's a good point. Now, you could get crazy and start buying even more. You actually might run out because if nothing's being produced anymore, at a certain point, you can't buy anything because even if all the eBay sellers sold everything and the rest is just people who have it in their house and it's not going to be sold, it's over, right? You win.
You won Rivet Wars by buying all of the Rivet Wars.
And then I get to store it.
Okay. Anything else on this riveting episode of Zlurpcast TV?
I think we're ready for scores.
I think we're ready. I'm going to bring in some reinforcements here. How much do I get to spend this turn? Let's see. Look at this. Why'd they make him black though?
Oh.
Like black paint, I mean. That's weird.
You're the people that keep on selling colored plastic. I didn't say that.
Oh, colored plastic? What if you spell it British? Does that make it better? Colored plastic?
With the U?
Yeah.
That makes it worse.
And like colored is not, you're not supposed to say that, but if you say it in British, I wonder if you get a pass.
Yeah, probably.
Like these colored people. All right, well, let's do some ratings. He's so cute. He doesn't look like the Rambo that I know. I bet you he's got an evil side. Xtreme, you're obviously up first.
All right. So I love the game. I would play it with anyone that mentioned it. And based on that, I have to rate it pretty high. But there is some negatives, being a dead game and not being around anymore. I'm going to give it a 4.5.
That's the highest score
Yes.
you've given, is it not?
Didn't he do that? Tied? Was it? Didn't he have another 4 or 5?
Kings of War.
Yeah, that was this is not a shocking 4 or 5. Kings of War from you is a shocking 4.5. Because you've never asked about playing in the last how many years? I assume that was in the, pay no mind list.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good game.
Yeah. Valdric, do you want me to go or do you want next?
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to go 3.5. And I really wanted to give it a 4. But there's just too many cons on this one. I can't give a game that's so dead higher than this. But Xtreme wanted me to play. If I was invited to Tanksgiving, yeah, I'm going to play it. I'm going to have a blast. I don't even have mine anymore. So if I sold mine, how could I really give it a 4? Couldn't do it. Valdric.
I'll give it a 4. It's a great game. Like I said, Katie plays it, and that's a very small list. I do enjoy the miniatures. I do enjoy the feel, but like you said, I regret when Miniature Market had them all on sale. I asked Katie, should I get some of these? And she, of course, said no. I should have not listened. And
Why did you ask?
Well, because I need to play it with her. So
when it all appeared, you said, I don't know where I got it all. It, fell off the truck.
It was on sale.
Yeah, it was on sale. Oh, it was ridiculously on sale. But yeah. But anyways, I still think I can counter into playing at least the basic set. So yeah, I'll give it a 4.
Okay. Do you honestly think you guys will play again soon?
Yeah. We've actually been playing. Blitzball has helped a lot. So, and the fact that she's usually in Blitzball, that
Yeah, even with the. Did you ever get that resolved? By the way, Blitzball episode, Biran, if you could hit that one for me. Perfect.
Well, no, because she wants the rule that doesn't exist in writing. So, yeah, no.
What is she, a lawyer?
Yeah, and I love arguing the wrong side, but this one I can't even argue the other side for.
No, because it's very specific about. Anyways, but yeah,
again, I don't want to get you in trouble, Mike.
no, she's gonna watch this.
So we got a 4. Yeah, good point. 4.5, 3.5, 4. Biran, what are we looking at?
I'm giving it a 3.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, I don't think we've ever hit the steps before. 3, 5, 4, 4. I don't think we've ever had this. We've always had some level of 3 of us like it. One's kind of We're 2 and 2.
But it makes for a perfect average of 0.75.
Exactly.
Xtreme, how do you feel about how this averaged out, knowing it's your top score?
I mean, I don't know. You would all play it with me. That's all that matters.
point.
I'd play Candyland with you because you're a cool guy, Brian.
I wouldn't play Candyland with these models though. Put a little war theme in that game. You know?
The grimdark of Candyland.
Yeah, I think you just need it. You need that in there. All right, well, so that is Rivet Wars. Once again, if you want to play the game, there's some steps to get to the stuff. But once you get the stuff and you get the friends, you got to get the friends and
It's
the
a game
stuff.
within a game.
You don't want the stuff before you the friends. Get the friends, then get the stuff. Once you got the stuff, then your friends will be happy. Hopefully, fun game. Otherwise, I think that's it. Follow on Zlurpcast. Follow everything Zlurpcast. Just Google it. Be like, hey, why didn't they buy Zlurpcast.com? No, Private Cheats with a Z at the end of it owns it now. I let it go. They bought it, and now it's ransom for $10,000. So we don't have it. We got the YouTube channel. We got social media. And if you want to buy stuff, Biran, you not only alluded to a Smat shirt, but you also own one.
Yes, I
You
do.
can get that, as well as Xtreme shirt he's wearing right now. Show it off there. Whoa, that's brighter. Is that a new one?
No.
The orange looks good. I like the orange.
Yeah,
on it.
mine's way faded. You can get that one. It may cost like $21 to $24 and know that we get like 83 cents of that. Yeah, that's cool. If not, no big deal. But that way, when you go to a con, you pick what shirt you're going to wear. It's not what shirt can I get laid with. It's what shirt can I elicit a reaction? And if you want a reaction, one of us, you wear his Zlurpcast shirt, and we see you, we're like, hey! And then you say, you know what? Have a seat next to me at Kuma's Corner. You don't have the shirt, go sit in the booth, and maybe I'll come by when I take a piss. That's how it works. So get the stuff on zlurpcast.net. Join the discussion. We haven't had Zlurp Nation content in a while. Maybe Biran's got something. You got like a video clip
No.
that was a leftover that you never gave me. I know there's one, but since you're doing the work, I can't really do anything about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe.
There was one.
There was. I can't even remember what episode we did
I
it on.
can't either. So that's over. Xtreme,
Make a note. If there's something I'm going to do it right away because I'll forget.
Xtreme was going to do some doodles. He stopped doing that, decided to start paying attention. That sucks because then we lose that. Anyway, we'll have something. We'll have something at some point. Otherwise, we should probably say goodbye and end it.
Zlurpcast! Brought to you by Nuffles. Bet you can't just roll a one.